And here we are, guys.
Happy Monday.
Happy Monday. I got my little intro music wrong tonight. How is everyone? Glad to see there's some folks already on the live. If you're there, say hi. This is Phil and Pete with the Brazil Expat Journal, the BEJ you can trust, and we're your guides through this crazy country called Brazil, the biggest country in Latin America, right? Do I have my geography right? It's big. It's big.
Yes,
and there's a whole lot to do here.
It is.
Yeah.
It is.
So, first off, I want to thank everybody who's welcomed the Brazil Expat Journal back in its new format, which is live. And it's so nerve-wracking to do things live, but we're managing. And I just want to thank people that commented on the last video, people who liked the last video, and please subscribe to the channel and press the little bell so you know when new videos will be up, and hit that little like button, because I hear that helps our videos appear to you. That's what I keep hearing in all the other YouTube channels. Don't forget to hit the like button because it'll help you see our videos. So please do that. That'll definitely help the channel and help us get more content out to you. So Pete, what's going on with you? Had a good week?
Yeah. Last week was pretty good. It was busy. Of course, it's been 2 weeks since we were on the air last, and I guess the biggest development from then till now is that I did indeed catch the rat. Bought myself a rat trap, not one of those wooden snap traps, but a cage trap. And it proved to be very effective when baited properly. So effective, in fact, that my landlady is actually for her house.
I saw that she actually wants to
Yeah,
get
she
in
didn't
there.
actually get me a trap, but now that I have one, she wants one for herself. So, yeah, whatever.
Anyway, so guys, that was Pete's big development, is getting rid of the rat. Didn't have many developments. And by the way, tonight, I'm such a great host for the show. I told you this live stuff is unnerving. I much prefer the pre-recorded version. But tonight, guys, we're going to be talking about teaching English in Brazil. Pete's an English teacher. I'm an English teacher, but we're going to have a really good guest on, and I'll introduce her in a little bit. Her name's Kay, and she is from Canada, like our friend Pete. So she's already hanging out backstage, and as soon as we just get to a little bit of news, because I think it's important for those of you that are thinking about coming to Brazil to know what's going on down here. I see so many people in the expat group saying, I'm coming to Brazil next month. Should I cancel? I'm coming to Brazil. I don't know where so many people want to come to Brazil right now. We're in the middle of this pandemic.
We're being
And
fucking demonized in the news right now, man.
I know. Right now,
If I read the news about Brazil from another country, I would stay miles the fuck away from that. But, I would have to say that the news is not as bad as it appears if you are not in a hospital.
yeah, well, that's the thing that folks need to understand. And Pete made a point about this, is that Brazil's a huge country. So it depends where you are. You're going to have a different experience as far as how bad things are. But yeah, if you just put down Brazil lockdown, we're in red phase right now. Nothing's open. They have an 8 p.m. curfew. And, life is pretty much like stay indoors. Although today I went running and the park was filled with people. So, folks don't really listen. But if you just put Brazil lockdown, a collapse foretold, how Brazil's COVID-19 outbreak overwhelmed hospitals, worse may lie ahead. So it's all kind of really bad news, and it's mostly due to the lack of infrastructure. It's a really big country.
Yeah.
So, guys, that's the news right now in Brazil. We're on major lockdown. It's supposed to end next
After
week.
Easter, yeah.
After Easter, and we shall see what happens. But anyway, let's get right into it, okay? Our guest, which I'm going to add to the broadcast studio if I can. There she is. Add to the stream. Our guest is Kayla McKeesey. McKeesey from Toronto, Canada, former IT consultant and samba dancer. And down here, she teaches English, and she has this wonderful site on Instagram called Diaspora English, which I'm going to share here on the screen, guys. And I'll have links up to all of her social media pages and everything. So don't worry about that. But check this page out before I get her to say hi to you. Diaspora English, and she gives a lot of great tips. She does interviews herself on how to not only speak English but understand the culture behind what you're saying. I love her videos when she's talking about how important it is to know the culture. So, without further ado, how are you, Kay? Are you there? Is she there?
She's showing up as being in the broadcast.
Yes, maybe she needs. Kate, see if your microphone is. Oh, she's having mic issues. She sent us a little message in the. And guys,
Yeah.
this is live radio, so there you go. It happens. But I've been following her page for a while, and it's really a nice page. And really, the stuff that I like the most is like the cultural stuff. And I invited her on, guys, because a
Yes,
lot of.
sound.
Oh, there you go. We got some
Oh,
sound coming.
yes. Hello. Good evening, Pete and Phil. Thank you so much for having me here.
Well, thank you
Hey,
for
great to have
coming.
you.
So, Kay, tell us a little bit about where you're from, but most importantly, what brought you to Brazil?
Sure. So I I tell people I'm from Toronto, but I'm actually from a town that's smaller and it's only about like 30 minutes away from Toronto called Ajax. And most people don't know Ajax, so I usually just tell them Toronto because it's a hop, skip, and a jump away. So I'm from Ajax, Ontario, Canada, and what brought me to Brazil was Brazilian samba, dance, and music.
So, did you get into that? Like, how did you get into that in Canada?
So I began taking classes in Canada. I kind of came across Brazilian music and I really took to it and I was listening to it a lot and I felt like, I wanted to get involved in some way. And I went to a drumming class, a Brazilian drumming class in Toronto. And at the drumming class, they also had, it was kind of like a drop in, a free drumming class, but at the same time, they had a free drop in dance class. And after I tried the dance, I completely abandoned drumming. I never took up drumming, and like the rest was history. I started taking every and any Brazilian samba class I could in Toronto. And then I eventually started doing, or taking rather, dance trips to Brazil every year with groups of dancers to do dance training and to
Oh,
get
wow.
immersed in the culture as well as participate in carnival. And I had been doing this for a few years in a row. And then I decided I wanted to kind of do it on my own because each time I went on these dance trips, I never felt like it was enough. I always felt like there was so much more to learn and to experience and to know. So then I decided to go on my own for 3 months. And I felt like 3 months wasn't enough. So then I decided to go back for 6 months and participate in a bigger role in Carnival and do more training. And I'm still here, which is 2.5 years later, not 6 months.
Oh, good. Well, good. I was gonna ask you when this all went down. So, just a couple years ago. So, you're a newbie in Brazil, a newbie, and
You could
yeah.
say
Yeah.
that.
Coincidentally, Pete came down for the same reasons. He told me this whole story.
Really?
Yeah.
Okay.
I don't think Pete can samba very well. He can barely balance his cell phone. So I don't think.
What?
Yes.
Okay. Okay. Okay.
I don't
Yeah.
think. Although,
Samba was not my number one motive for coming here. It was like maybe third or fourth.
Okay.
My last
although
carnival participation was like dancing in a conga line. So
yes.
Oh,
Although I'll say this, I had no idea that you were so involved with this, all this samba and carnival stuff. It's pretty cool. Uh, and I only got into it like last year, where I went heavy duty into like the samba schools and everything. And I can't
nice.
samba. I can't samba for anything. You know, I can imagine that I samba after enough beers, but that's very cool.
Yeah, everybody says that.
Well, because it's true. That's why we say it.
People say the same thing about English. They say, "Oh, once I get liquored up, the English just flows out of me." So,
It's true, though. There's an actual study that proves this, and I share it with my students sometimes. So
Yeah.
I give them this little tip of like, bring a little flask of something to your next meeting, and your English will flow. But speaking of English and teaching, oh, look at this. We got some guys on. For we men, I love to watch others. This is Ralphie from Victoria. Hi, Ralphie. Thanks for watching.
okay.
Yeah, well, I love to watch the others too. We had a carnival episode a couple weeks back. It was more carnival horror stories,
Oh
but one of the
no.
great things about carnival is just people watching. That's
Okay.
Hmm.
one of the greatest things, and especially when you get those 7 foot tall transvestites. So I gotta watch my language here. Transvestites who dance like twice as much as the women and look gorgeous. Like, oh my god, they're incredible. So it's an experience. But how did you end up kind of getting into teaching? How did you move into that area?
Well, I went into teaching very cautiously. So actually, I actually had teaching experience prior to coming to Brazil. Although I was an IT consultant and I also went to business school, when I was in high school, I was a French tutor all throughout high school. Like that was one of my main jobs, and I actually had started a tutoring company in my last year of high school. So I had a lot of experience teaching and tutoring, but I did this in French, not in English. And actually, one of the things I did before going to Brazil, which I highly recommend to anyone planning to go to another country, is I spoke with some Brazilian friends and I told them about what I wanted to do, and I said like what is a good way for me to like um make some extra money while I'm down there. Like my focus is going to be samba, but I want to, make a couple, make some money to support myself so I don't have to, rely on savings or save up for everything. I'd like to, I'd like to be able to work like while I'm there. And I was like, can I work at a cafe or something like that? And they were like, the only thing that's going to be viable is teaching English. I don't recommend
Hmm.
anything else. They were like, don't bother with anything else. The best thing you could do is teach English and you will get paid much better than anything else. Um, so,
Yeah.
so yeah, my barista dreams were like shot down, shot down the toilet or the drain. And I said, okay, I'm going to try it. And well, I started slowly, and then as I got my feet wet, I decided, you know what, I actually quite like this, and I like teaching adults. Because previously, with my
Yeah.
French teaching experience, it was only with children. Actually, I had only worked with children, so I wasn't quite sure how it would go, but it went really well, and I had some experiences as well that made me want to continue. I think some of the challenges being an English teacher just made me want to overcome them. So, yeah, that's pretty much how I got into teaching.
And what were some of those challenges, by the way?
Um, First and foremost, culturally, oh my gosh, communication was totally different. The student teacher relationship was totally different. than anything I had been used to. And I had students that were corporate students. I would teach business professionals, and just the way to communicate was totally different. And I felt like, both it was impacting both sides. Like, the students weren't understanding me, and I wasn't understanding the students. And I don't mean in terms of language, I mean in terms of connecting, where you
Hmm.
have, like a good relationship where, the students are benefiting, and you also, are feeling like it's a good fit for you. And so that was the first thing, the relationship culturally. And then also just a lot of misconceptions about Canada, because a lot of people like that sounds like a laugh that has experience behind it. But
Yeah, I'm from Victoria myself.
oh, okay, okay. I've
Yeah.
never been to Victoria, but you know, um, people's knowledge of Canada. I think a lot of countries, not Brazil alone, a lot of countries, Canada is one big question mark. It's like people know it,
It's
but they don't
America
know it.
light. It's America light with
Yeah.
French and
In
colder.
yeah, in a lot of people's minds, it's like
Yeah.
that. But anyways, a lot of students did have ambitions to go to Canada to either immigrate or do an exchange, or they just wanted to meet a Canadian. And then, first of all, a lot of people were surprised that I was Canadian. Um, and yeah, so that was something that, I had to I had to deal with students.
Because
And
And why were
Canada's
they surprised you? Why were they
Canada's a hundred
surprised that you're
percent
a
white.
Canadian?
Because Canada's
Exactly.
100% white.
Okay.
be-
Yeah.
because yeah, because of my race, people were surprised that I was the Canadian teacher. And having to explain that. And I just saw so many disconnects that were cultural in nature. They weren't the language, it was the culture that was like a barrier, both on the student and teacher side. So this really inspired me to find a solution. Like, rather than leave ESL and do something else, I wanted to like fill that gap, that knowledge gap, for those who want that want that gap to be filled. But yeah, that those were some of the experiences I had that led me to do what I'm doing.
Cool. And I actually I want to ask you a little bit about your Instagram page, but one video that I liked a few, I guess maybe 4 or 5 months ago you posted was specifically about that. Is about how you like broke down the percentage, like the race percentages of Canada, because that
Hmm.
is such a misconception. And I get it in the sense, Brazil has aspects of it which make you feel like, wow, it's so close to being first world, but then at the same time it's like so close to being third world. So there's not a lot of exposure to everything, like we have in Canada, maybe you guys, or in America. So yeah, for the average Brazilian, Canada is white people. I mean, you'd be surprised how many people feel that way, even just about America, or
Yeah.
British. So in Canada, even less, because there's not a lot of media representation for Canada here in Brazil, and whatever there is, it's mostly Caucasian. So I like that video. So tell us how you got into this whole Instagram thing, because when we talk about some tips about coming to Brazil to teach English, we're definitely going to get into the social media aspect of it
Okay.
too. But before we get there, just give us like what prompted you to start this Instagram page. But before you do that, let me just say Jerry Faria here says that his best samba move is a typical gringo index finger in the air and slowly running on the spot. Okay.
That's pretty much me. Yeah.
Oh, my
Nice.
friend Carol. Carol, who interviewed me for her wonderful channel. She's a really nice expat who I believe was in Mexico and now in Nicaragua. And she says, nice to hear an expat story from a beautiful, brainy, and talented sister. Thanks for introducing her,
Aw.
Phil. So thank you, Carol. She's a sweetheart. I really enjoyed talking to Carol.
Thank you,
So
Carol.
back to your Instagram page, Diaspora English. Tell us the story behind this.
So, diaspora English learning Instagram is relatively new. It was launched in September 2020. And basically, the pandemic hit. Most of my students were students that I was meeting face to face, and everyone went online, obviously, because we had to. And, I felt like, now is the time to start expanding online because I always wanted to teach online, but there were so many students in Sao Paulo available
Yeah.
to teach face to face. It was kind of hard to say no to the people that were available and then try to build something from the start online. It would have
Hmm.
been quite a sacrifice. But
Yeah.
then I was forced to do that, and I was like, okay, now is the time. Let's do it.
And that
Well,
eats up so much of your time too. Like it wasn't
For sure.
until that the business shifted online that you realized how much potential work you were losing simply by spending half your day on a bus.
Yes. Oh my goodness. And
yes.
yeah, and being under the sun, going from bus to bus, metro to metro, it's not fun. It's not
It's
fun.
Now,
not fun. And I'm a sweater,
it's
so I don't like,
yeah,
yeah,
Mm,
yeah. I
it's the
have a
worst.
wardrobe full of dress shirts that I will probably never use again.
just
Yeah.
because you're online now.
Yeah, exactly. I don't even wear a shirt half the time I teach these days because it has been
Really?
hot. Yeah,
Okay. Okay. Do
yeah,
you teach
but
with the
I don't.
camera on?
No, God, no, God, no.
Okay. Okay. Just making sure.
Yeah, it's not just because of me either. I don't need to see my students picking their noses either.
True. Fair enough. Fair enough.
Yeah,
Well, we'll get into online teaching towards the latter end of this conversation. But Anthony McGruce here says, love this conversation. And guys, thanks for watching, okay? And if you have any questions about expat life and teaching, share them in the comments. And as we continue with the conversation, we will try to answer them the best that we can. Because you got three teachers here. I've been teaching since 2010 in Brazil. Pete, since when? 2016, 17?
2005 in total, but in Brazil since 2014.
Yeah, okay, 2015. And Kay is the baby, but she's made a
Yes.
name for herself. She's been here doing it for what, 2, 3 years down here?
Yeah. Two
Like a
and a
duck to
Okay.
half
water.
years.
No, but she's extremely successful. And guys, definitely check out her Instagram page. Even if you're not an English learner, like she just makes these really cool videos. And she's inspired me to get my ass on Instagram and start doing some stuff for English too. So you might see
Yeah,
me up there very soon.
I do have a question about the Instagram page, but I'm going to wait and see if it actually is addressed. And if it isn't, then I will bring it up later.
Okay.
Our friend Ralphie here has been teaching since 1999, and
Wow.
I definitely,
Congrats.
he's old school. I'll definitely have Ralphie on. He's a really nice guy. He's an expat over in Vitoria. I met him when I went to Vitoria,
Okay.
which is a
Okay.
really nice city. So, guys, what we're gonna kind of riff off in this conversation is an article I wrote way back in 2016, but it's kind of it's been floating around the web for a while and went kind of viral.
Mm-hmm.
So I want to and I think it's helped a lot of people. And so we're just gonna look at the topics, each heading, get your opinions on it, and then of course kind of give it an update, considering our current situation and
Hmm.
salary changes and money changes and ups and downs and impeachments and everything.
Yeah.
So this is kind of our rough guide, okay? If you want to come to Brazil to teach English. So the first
Okay,
topic I want to,
hang on. Phil, can I
yeah,
interject just
of
1 second?
course,
Because it
of
doesn't
course.
look like we're going to get the Instagram information I wanted. So while we are on that topic, I
Go
would like
ahead.
to ask Kay, what are the advantages of promoting your business via Instagram as opposed to other social media platforms? Because I have a Facebook page, I don't have
Hmm.
Instagram. And honestly, I think I've gotten one job out of my Facebook page.
Oh,
What are the
wow.
advantages of Instagram as opposed to other social media?
I think one of the great things about Instagram is that you can get to know your students and they can get to know you a lot better, and you can access students a lot easier. For example, on Facebook, you would have to friend someone in order to, act to talk with them or find them. Whereas Instagram, you can just search like hashtags and yeah, you can search hashtags in your niche or in the industry, and you can follow people, and it's not weird or invasive like Facebook. Like adding someone on Facebook is a lot more personal than following someone on Instagram that you don't know. So it's a lot
Right,
easier to just network actually and find like your niche and areas where people are doing what you're doing in a way that is I think there's less barriers because the application is made for that. Because I could say the
okay,
same thing about Facebook. I also have a Facebook page, and I get like most of my posts. I don't even get one like, but
yeah,
I just have it there in case someone happens to be looking for English classes on Facebook. But I definitely can't rely on it.
right, okay, that's good.
Cool.
Let's get to the article.
No, but I just to add on to that, I totally agree with her because, I do a little bit of music on the side and I was trying promoting on Facebook like nothing. And then on Instagram, it's just so much faster. You meet people that are in your niche,
Yeah.
so it like Instagram works to actually promote you to those people automatically, and vice versa. So you end up gaining a whole bunch more likes and comments uh, and the whole nine. And some people might argue that it might even be better. I know Kay does some lives on Instagram, kind of stuff that we're doing. I still like YouTube as a platform though, but some folks prefer do those things on Instagram. So Instagram is a very accessible little app for stuff like that. So the first thing that I thought people needed to consider when coming to Brazil to teach English is location, 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 location,
Mm-hmm.
Oh,
because
yes.
not every place is built the same in Brazil. So what are your thoughts on that, Kay? And then Pete can jump in there and give some thoughts.
I couldn't agree more. Location is really important. And this is basically the reason why I chose Sao Paulo, because of the location. There is high demand for English classes, and there's also a lot of people who have the means to pay for them, because also a lot of the big companies that are based here will pay for their students' classes.
Yeah.
So this is a huge advantage, whereas other cities, the demand is not there. And also in Sao Paulo, it's more of a necessity for people. Like there's other cities where it's not as much in demand because people don't need it for their jobs as much. Whereas Sao Paulo is the business capital, and people need, like, most jobs require you to be bilingual, even if you don't use the English language in your job. A lot of the jobs want you to have some level of proficiency. And yeah, the reality is that you need to be in a place where people, one, need your service, and two, can pay for it.
Yeah,
I agree with that
hundred
100%.
percent. Yeah,
It's not impossible to make it outside of the big cities. In fact, we talked to somebody 2 weeks ago, Ron, who is quite happy working in a smaller city,
Okay.
and he would argue that, hey, the benefit of being in a smaller city is you got no competition. You're the English teacher, so
Yeah,
Okay.
yeah.
but it takes a little bit more
But
work and planning.
he's still in Sao Paulo State though. He's not that far. Like a lot of these
Oh,
people who live in these smaller towns, because I lived
yeah.
in Jundiaí for a year, they commute. They drive to the city and they work and then they come back to the small town. So I
Hmm.
think
Right.
even I think anywhere within the vicinity of Sao Paulo is still like not a bad option. That's why I chose Jundiaí for my first place because I didn't have any connections in Sao Paulo. But I knew Jundiaí, it's like a Sao Paulo suburb almost.
Okay.
So you
Hmm.
still have that market. But again, as Ron said, less competition.
Yes, yeah, because and Pete's right. I've had so many students here who would just drive in from Sorocaba. They work in the business districts here, Vila Olimpia, Behini, but they would do an hour commute, hour and a half commute every day. So the benefit, and you got to just do some extra planning, is that sometimes those people would be like, hey, I'll just have classes in my hometown instead of coming all the way to Sao Paulo. It's just trying to find the hours because, usually they like to have classes during business hours. But now that
Yep.
everything's online, that
It doesn't
makes
matter.
Yep.
exactly it
Yep.
makes moving to these smaller cities a bit more viable. Now,
Phil,
go ahead.
Phil, I just wanted to add something to that as well. For my another thing for me, I I teach privately. I don't teach for any schools. So I
Hmm.
think that also is a big factor in location. Like I'm
Hmm.
sure you could get hired by a school and have like a full-time position in a smaller city, and
Yeah,
the your salary matches your cost of living, and that's different. But yeah, I think location is more crucial if you want to work you know, entirely for yourself.
I agree with this. So now, next topic, get some training. I think this is an important one because you do have these teachers who, well, not teachers, these folks that come down here and think, I speak English and that's enough.
Mm-hmm.
But I do think you need to get some bit of training. And what were your guys' experience with getting some training? Mine was actually working in a small school and picking up some tips from them on how to do the thing until I kind of figured it out myself. What was your training, quote unquote, journey?
Shall I go first?
yeah,
Go ahead.
please.
Yeah, you're the
Okay.
guest.
Okay. Um, I agree, except that it's kind of hard. So, well, it depends because when I started, I just wanted to see if I liked it. So I wasn't willing to invest in like CELTA, for example. I eventually
Hmm.
did get my CELTA certification, but that was not something I was willing to invest in right off the bat because I didn't know if I would, be sticking with ESL or not. I
And it's
just
quite
wanted
expensive, right? How much is the
It's
yeah,
very
Celta?
expensive.
very. Well, I did it in Brazil and I think it was like 7,000 reais or something like that. Like it was really
Hmm.
expensive. Or maybe even
Yeah.
8,000 reais. It was a few
Shit.
$1,000s. Yeah.
Hmm.
Wow.
Yeah. It was, yeah, 2, 4, 6. It was between 7 and 8,000 reais.
Hmm.
And the truth is, it doesn't really increase your employability by that much. Like, it's a difference maker. Like, if they have to choose between the teacher who has CELTA and the one who doesn't, they're probably going to choose the one who has it. But because so few people have it, it's largely irrelevant in a lot of cases.
And I think also culturally in Brazil, people will hire you if they like you. They could care less. You could
Yeah,
have you
Yes.
could have a PhD in English, and if they don't really like your personality or you don't gel with them, it's not gonna
yeah.
work. They're not gonna hire you. It doesn't matter how much you know. Um, personal relationships come first. So I agree that it doesn't make that much of a difference. Like I had to really work hard. I'm still, well, I shouldn't say in the past tense, but you know, I'm really working hard to differentiate myself based on culture and cultural knowledge with the language because Celta's not enough. I mean, it's just not enough.
I
Yeah, and
agree. Oh, sorry.
Phil
Go ahead.
Phil raised the question of these short-term backpackers who come here and teach English as basically a way to fill a gap year, and they don't have that practical knowledge, and it really drives me nuts. But the fact is, some of them are actually better at the relationship aspect. So the fact that they don't know their business in terms of the actual mechanics of the English language turns
Mm,
out to be irrelevant because hey, the client likes them. We get to talk, we get to practice, and the fact
mhm.
that they don't actually know how to teach them anything useful is irrelevant.
Well, Pete,
Yeah.
you segued right into the next topic. Brush up on your English because the training, guys. I do think it's important. Not necessarily the training on like what's the past participle of this and that, but just how to run a classroom. I think if you or run a class, how to organize a class, make it dynamic. I think
Mhm.
that after a while that won't make a difference, and that'll get you to what Kate was talking about, how they're going to like your personality, but it's because they feel like, hey, this person knows how to command a room for an hour.
Mm,
Whereas if you don't have that training, you might not know how to do that. So you don't necessarily have to take a CELTA or like grammar training, but I don't think it's a bad idea if you can find like a small English school that offers free training or anything like that, just so you
yeah.
have a concept of how do I make an hour go by, and not
Mm-hmm.
bore the student. But like I said, Pete did segue into this, and that's how I began this next paragraph. A lot of foreigners begin to teach English with these conversation classes, but I think that in the end, like after a while, that's going to wear off. Students eventually are going to ask you, why? Why do I need to
Yeah.
add this word
Yeah,
here?
yeah,
And so, what did you do, Kay? Other than the Celta, of course, but to
yeah.
just brush up on that stuff that you knew how to say, but you never thought about why you said it. What are some tips you can give to some folks to quickly brush up on those English skills?
So funny enough, actually, I was going to the why, I think actually Celta is really good at helping you with that specific part. Like being
Mm-hmm.
able to explain why some things are and being able to systematically being able to categorize errors and analyze errors. I think that's
Mm-hmm.
the greatest asset I got from Celta, being able to know, okay, exactly what mistake they made and why, down to, their native language and how that affects their mistake. However, in terms of training, I actually, one of the, no, the second school I started working with, or agents, it's more like an agency than a school. I actually received training that was very, very good. And I'm so fortunate. She had a method and a format of doing classes. And she was really like hands on. So, if something didn't go well or the students weren't getting something, like she was able to help. She wasn't like hands off. So basically I received, I would call that a mentorship. I was basically mentored, and then as I got more confident, I developed my own way of teaching, my own method based on my experiences with students, because then I reached a point where her method wasn't working for all of the students, and I wanted to help the students in the areas that the method wasn't working, but because of her branding and stuff, she didn't want anything to deviate. So then I started going more and more in my own direction. Does that answer your question?
Yeah,
Yeah. Yeah.
eventually you find your own voice, but it's cool that you said you did the Celta, like that helped you, just understand the language a little bit. the mechanics of the
Yeah,
language. Like you don't have to be a
yeah,
grammarian, but you should be able
yeah.
to explain things as quickly as possible.
Yeah. And there's great
Any,
resources out there on like academia.edu, and
mhm.
there's so many good resources like that explain everything that's in CELTA. I think you just have to be willing to put in the time and invest the time, which sometimes is hard when, you're just teaching English to make money on the side, and you got other things going on. But you can oh, great book, Inglés Descomplicado. Okay, I'll check it out. But you can find the information out there, or if you could find someone who's willing to mentor you, that's great as well.
Yeah,
Yeah, and one thing that I really adhere to is unless the client is really against the idea, use a book, and preferably use a book that has a teacher's book. Because if
mm,
you come across a point that you're not really that sure how to explain, that's what the teacher's book's for, motherfucker. Read the teacher's book. It's That's why it's called the teacher's book. It actually instructs you on how to teach these points. And if you come to a point in a lesson where it's like, I don't really know how to explain like the passive voice, for example. Usually the teacher's book will give you some insight in how to do that. So, all these people who are like, I don't like to use books, they're too confining, blah, blah, blah. Now, I heartily recommend using books because they provide a structure, but they also provide resources that help you better develop your understanding of a language that you grew up speaking as a native and you've probably forgotten the basic rules of.
I agree. And another book, by the way, is Murphy's English Grammar and Use. Anybody who's starting teaching, from zero,
Yes, that's an
buy yourself
excellent
a
one.
copy. I mean, it just explains the grammar points in the most basic way possible.
Yeah,
And
yeah,
Yeah,
it's a
good one.
teacher's and student's book. You don't even need the
yeah.
teacher's version of it, because it's all explained on the page. Um, moving
True.
along, what's your guys' feeling about learning some Portuguese? I feel that it's important not just for sometimes explaining things fast to a student that may take a lot longer if you're just teaching them in English 100%, but also for networking. I feel having some Portuguese is really important for networking and getting to know other students. So how do you guys feel about that?
Go
I
first.
Okay, I think Portuguese is necessary. If you really want to be successful at teaching English in Brazil, you need to know Portuguese, because it's part of the culture, and it's part of how the students think. And like when it comes to money negotiation, most people are comfortable in their native language, and it's really an asset when you can switch to Portuguese to explain your prices, your services. So there's really no reason for people to not want to choose you as their teacher, because you're able to answer all their questions. And I think it also shows humility and like dedication to what you're doing, because you've even taken the time to learn their language while being in their country. I think it's all around. I think it's necessary. I definitely would not be where I am if I didn't speak Brazilian Portuguese, São Paulo Portuguese for that matter.
Hey,
Right,
mano.
right. Because it is regional.
Yes.
Yep.
Yeah.
So all her
Yeah.
clients are Manu and Mana, just so you know, São Paulo Portuguese.
Yes.
Your clients, did you say?
Yes, are your students. Your student. Hey, Mano, beleza? Esse é o preço. Tá ligado? Tá ligado? Esse é o preço.
Meu,
But go ahead. I'm sorry, Pete. Go ahead.
Yeah, no, I would say that I disagree that it's essential, but you definitely have your doors a lot more open to a wider client base if you do. Like I've lost a lot of jobs from people who insisted they want a native speaker. That's essential, but they want a native speaker who speaks Portuguese. And from my thinking, it's like, what the fuck, man? Like, you want the native speaker because you want someone who's going to speak English the whole time, but you want that Portuguese to fall back on. And definitely you'll be disqualified from a lot of beginner jobs. I have taught beginners with
Okay.
I wouldn't I wouldn't say like my Portuguese isn't non-existent. It's not like I've made no effort to learn. I mean, after like almost 7 years here, like you got to know something. You
Hmm.
would think. You would think. I know people, when I lived in China, I knew people who'd lived there for like 10 years and knew like no Chinese. So it is
Oh, wow, you
possible
live
to,
there too. Nice.
yeah, yeah. So it is possible to live in a country for years. In fact, lots of Chinese people in Canada are like that. It is possible to live in a country for years and never
True.
learn the language.
Hmm.
And I have learned some Portuguese, but my level has definitely disqualified me from a lot of beginner students, definitely kids. Um, so it's not
Mm.
essential,
We
but
don't
at the
want Pete
same time,
anywhere near kids. We don't want Pete anywhere near kids. Trust me.
yeah. Well, I actually kids don't want me anywhere near them, man. I did teach kids in China, and it's not my thing. But at the same time, I have actually gotten jobs because of my poor Portuguese. A new student I started with last month, she sacked her previous teacher because, and I think it was probably a backpacker or a newbie, was
Okay.
constantly asking her to teach her Portuguese. Like,
Oh
okay,
no.
this is this word in English. How do you say this in Portuguese? And I don't give a fuck about learning the language. I'm not here to learn from you. You're paying me to teach you.
Of
So
course.
that to her was really appealing. That if she says something in Portuguese, I'm going to be like, I don't know, look it up on Google Translate. I don't know what the fuck that is.
You know
Uh,
what?
Go ahead.
Hmm.
I was gonna
Yeah,
say, you know what? I I can see how that can be an advantage in its own way. I feel like, if you have your niche and you know what certain people are looking for, that could definitely be an advantage in its own way. So yeah, I think either way is as long as you're focused on the student and because you can't be everything to everyone. That's another thing as well. You have to learn as a teacher. So
yeah,
I think what you said about niches is perfect because there are these students, and I've taught some of them, who are these hardcore, I don't want to hear one word of Portuguese in this class and type students,
okay,
and they're very dedicated, and usually they pay very well. Uh,
okay,
and I know I've been disqualified from some classes when they find out that, hey, I was born in Brazil, so my Portuguese is actually almost near fluent. I've gotten way better since I got here. I've been disqualified from classes because of that, because in their mind, they're like, oh, this is someone who might break into Portuguese at some point in his class.
what?
And this is true, but I respect that. I respect that some people have that different view. I know when I was
Okay.
at university, when I took German, I really appreciated the fact that the teacher did not speak one word of English. I was lost for a month, but it was cool. So different people have different ways of learning. So once you find your niche, you can become that guy or gal who's like, I'm the 100% English all the time teacher, and you really got to
Yep.
come with your A game to this class.
Yep.
Whereas then you will have the ones that maybe they learn a little bit better if you can just tell them, what does this mean, and you can just snap into Portuguese real quick and say, look, this is this, this, and this. Boom, let's move on to the next topic. So it
Yeah.
depends. Let's move along, guys, so we're not here all night, but I'm enjoying this conversation. I'm enjoying everybody's commenting on the
Hmm.
conversation.
indeed. Thanks to
I'm
the
gonna
audience, man. You guys are
Yes,
great.
I'm gonna go back to Jerry
Oh, hey,
Faria.
Jerry, a new English file. Yes,
Yes, I still use New
that
English
is a
File.
great series of books. And
Yes, I still
American
use them.
English file is good.
Yes, they're very good. I still use them for my business students, especially when I'm like out of ideas of what to do for activities. Our friend RMG here says the same. English File is very helpful. Some Ezra said it's mandatory. If you can't speak the native language, you hold yourself back. Okay, so he believes it's mandatory to speak some Portuguese. Anthony Magru says so true. Not to mention the jeito of the baiano. So I guess he was talking about knowing even the what do you call it? The language from specific regions. The regionality
Yeah,
of Portuguese
yeah.
is very important. And um, tell a joke in Portuguese. Being a gringo, you open doors. Of course, if you know a little bit of the language, you will.
telling
As
telling
as
jokes
lo-
is
as
sorry.
long as you tell it right. Yeah.
Exactly, because I've had some students tell jokes in English did not go well. So, guys, let's get to the nitty gritty stuff now.
Okay.
Entering the workforce. So, I'm
The
just gonna
cheddar.
the cheddar. So I'll explain a little bit here and then we can discuss. So, in case you don't know, Brazilians is the real, okay? They're usually going to pay your full salary monthly, okay? Depend. Some places will do it twice a month. Some schools and private clients, they prefer to pay you in cash. Others will transfer to your bank account. Usually it's all under the table, so you got to know that for tax reasons. Although you can, after a while, kind of open a micro company and then you can send out invoices, and there's a whole tax thing that goes on with that. Usually you're going to charge per hour, although there are sometimes cases where you can just have a monthly fee, and if it works for both the client and instructor. And living for less than 2,000 reais a month is nearly impossible, but it's not. It's
It's
not.
I
It's possible.
I went 1 month where I made like 700 AIs in a month. That
No,
was
it's
during the
rough.
Dome apocalypse.
Yeah, the Dome apocalypse was really rough. So Kay is should be
Oh
happy
wow,
she
you
did
were out
not.
here.
Yes.
Yeah.
So guys, but the goal is to make double or triple that amount. So we're going between
Yeah.
5 to 10,000 K that you can make per month teaching English. So let's get into how to get there. So first place that you can consider where to work is a franchise school like Wizard, CNA, Wise Up, Fisk. And I think Kay and Pete have pretty strong opinions about these schools. What do you think?
No, 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 no.
Yes.
Yeah.
It's yeah, it's
I I
go ahead,
I
Pete.
Yeah, I haven't worked for any of these schools, but I interviewed with both Wizard and Speak Up, and it's funny because their interview process is so strict. Like you have to jump through so many hoops. Like
I
you
know.
have to do grammar tests, you have this comprehensive interview. There's a first interview and a second interview, and at the end they pay you like $25 an hour, and you
Yeah.
have to be on site pretty much all fucking day. It's like,
Yeah.
Wow.
holy shit, man. Like, how can you actually expect such high standards from people who would be willing to work for such low money?
I
Yeah,
agree. Yeah. For
that's
me,
the
the focus.
issue.
Oh, go ahead. Go ahead, Kay. Sorry to cut you off.
No, no, I was just, echoing what Pete said. That's the real issue. And they charge top dollar. That's the other problem. They charge
Mhm.
students an arm and a leg. They don't they yeah, they don't pay you well. And it's kind of like, well, what's the point of that?
Well, the point of that is them making money. So when I think about these schools,
Yeah.
Yeah.
they're really not that much concerned with teaching you English or teaching Brazilians English, but selling their material. They have these. So
Yeah.
sometimes, Kay, they won't, because I worked for a school which was called, oh my God, UNS. It was kind of the competitor to Wise Up for a little second there, and Wise Up is probably one of the biggest ones down here. And I was friends with a lot of guys that did the business side of it, and they really didn't charge that much, which is why they got so many students. So, like, the monthly fee was like 260 reais per month or 300. But where did they get the students? Where was the knife stuck in? It's the material. It was like $1,000 for this material, and then after 3 months, you got to pay another $1,000 to get all these new books.
Oh no.
So that's where they
That you
make their
can
money.
download for free.
Yeah,
Most of it.
well, not all of
I
them, because
mean,
a lot of them were just really badly written, and it was like the Wise Up book, the fifth book.
Oh.
oh, okay.
They usually use their own material. So that's what happens with those. And like Pete said, you're going to make between 50 and 25 an hour. When I first came to Brazil, I was interviewed for Wizard, and I didn't know anything about Brazil. So I was like, wow, 25 an hour for a job is not bad. Until you realize it's reais. And 25 reais an hour is not going to get you very far in Sao Paulo.
Yeah. And considering, you have to pay for your transportation to get there and your
Hmm.
lunch and stuff like that, it's not worth it.
Yes, it's not
I
worth
think
it.
Wise Up provides free lunches. That's a good aspect of that, I suppose.
Okay. But then you have to be there all day, right?
Yeah,
Exactly.
exactly. That's why they pay for your lunch, because you're there all day.
Exactly.
Terrible.
Now,
Yeah.
then you have like what I consider the second tier franchise schools, okay, that are a little bit better quality. Like this bottom tier, they're the ones that are hiring, usually Brazilians who speak some English. So that's one positive. I mean, if you just are out and just out of luck, just your life is just gone to shit and you just really need money, show up at the door of any of these schools and they're going to give you, you'll have a guaranteed job, that first tier, because they'll see that you're a native speaker and you're going to be the star of the show. Second tier franchise schools are the ones that are a little bit better. Cultura Inglesa, Berlitz, Seven Idiomas, Alumni, okay? And these schools actually prefer to hire native teachers or near native instructors. And they may even be a little strict about sharing you with anybody. You might sign a contract. You might even get some benefits. I don't know,
Mm,
Yeah.
like visas, but they'll pay for your vacation. So these aren't bad schools. The pay is a little bit higher, anywhere from 25 to 40 an hour. Although I have met some folks that have made upwards to 80 or 100 per class. But it's a
okay.
hierarchical system.
Yeah.
It's gonna take you a couple years to make your name in these schools. Have you guys ever worked with, or do you know folks that work for any of these kind of quote unquote better schools?
I
Franchise.
haven't, but as you know, my principal job these days is not actually teaching, but
Hmm.
doing evaluations for companies that need their employees to speak English. And one of the questions I always ask is, when did you begin to study English? And a frequent answer is often, I did a course with CNA, I did a course with Cultural Inglesa, I did a course with Berlitz. And then I finished the interview and it's like, "Ugh," that's like a 5.5 out of 10 on the speaking. Like, I can't speak for the work environment, but I can tell you they are not turning out the best English speakers. So
No.
whatever is going on at those schools is not producing great English speakers.
Yeah. Yeah.
It's still, yeah, because at the end of the day, it's still business over actual pedagogy. By the way, Ezra said, not true at all, Phil. I tried that, I guess, when I was talking about just showing up to the doors of some of these schools,
Yeah.
and they told me to leave my resume. Well,
Oh.
okay, that was your experience. I do feel that a lot of these schools, though, because of the type of teachers that they're mostly hiring, Brazilians who can speak decent Portuguese, English. If you show up there, being able to recite some Shakespeare, they're going to hire you in a second. And then Ralphie here says they all lie. They say you are
Yeah,
a
they
native speaker,
do.
so I'll pay you more, but don't tell the Brazilian teachers. Then you find out they're paying you the same as the Brazilians. This is very true. This is
Yes,
very
that
true.
sounds accurate. Yeah.
And another option, guys, if you come to Brazil, and again, this is I'm talking about schools. Why? Because sometimes that's your first option. You don't have clients. You don't have anybody. So you got to sometimes start with
Yeah.
a
You
school.
got to start with a school.
Yeah.
You have
Yes.
to start with a school.
So the next option is small private schools or agencies. Okay. So these are kind of smaller operations. Sometimes they'll be headhunters. And actually, I started my company, and that's what I did. I would hire teachers to work for me. I paid them like a percentage. Well, I would take a percentage, and they would keep the rest. But I learned that from somebody that had a company like that and did that to me. There's also these small business schools. I've worked for one for over 10 years now, and they have a lot of clients, but you would never know they existed. They're hard to find. Usually you network, find out a teacher that works at one. They may drop your name in the box, and you get hired at these places. Um, and the rates can vary. I've seen them as low as 30 to 50 an hour, as high as 70 or even 100 an hour. But for me, these are, probably aside from private teaching, probably the best option because they have a higher level clientele. They work with big companies,
Yeah,
Ford and Pepsi Cola, and Volkswagen, et cetera, Itaú Bank,
Hmm.
and
yeah,
you get a lot of good training. You work with a lot of really good professionals. You learn the business working at these schools, and you network the hell out of your life. What are your
yeah.
guys' experience working with these type of companies?
You go first, Kay.
Sure. So for me, I started with this type of company, and I definitely think this is a good place to start. But what I would say is, try to work with a few, and not just one, because most of them, first
Hmm.
of all, they're just gonna give you, a couple students, and then, depending on how you do, you'll gradually get more. And one of them, was able to give me training. One of them didn't give me any training at all, and kind of just gave me a link to a like Google Drive and just said, "Oh yeah, pick a book and follow it." But this was, you know, me my first experience as teaching English, so that wasn't a good start. But I definitely think these companies pay more and they know their students better as well. And they seem to have more of an interest in actually having the students learn. I mean, they still,
Yes.
they still want to charge a lot, but it's a little bit better and the pay's better, and you can usually negotiate, because they have such a large spread between what they charge and what they pay you. So I got the sense that from some of the bigger schools there's like no room for negotiation.
Yeah, it's the company policy. But I mean, as far as like, don't just work for one, I don't think that's even an option because, as you said, like, you're not going to get a full time job with one of these schools. They'll be like, we have a student for you. And
Yeah.
that's actually how I fell into this because I was working in Jundiaí exclusively for a private school. I moved to Sao Paulo thinking I could get the same deal. And unless you're willing to work for some of those chain schools that we just talked about, that's not going to happen. If you're going to work for one of these smaller schools, they'll throw some students your way, but it's not going to be a full time job. So you
Hmm.
have to work for many.
Just guys, I'm glad you brought that up because that's really important. Yes, because they need to divide the pie. So they'll have about 10, 12 teachers working for them, and maybe they'll have 5, 6 companies, and they need to divide it. There will be times when the money's flowing in, and I think the most I've worked for a school like this is maybe 2 classes, twice a week, something like that. It may be an immersion on the weekends. So there was a time when I had about, I would do like 6 to 7 hours for a school like that, but that's not the norm. The norm
Hmm.
is they'll drop you 2 students, maybe 3, and then they got to
Hmm.
divide the pie. But it's a great place to get your feet wet and really learn. So then,
Yeah,
where?
and
Go
as
ahead.
you said, like you get this introduction to these companies, and
Hmm.
generally speaking, you don't work for these companies for that long, these schools. So what happens is, like for example, there's a very famous bank here in Brazil. Won't name it, but it's a bank of Brazil, so you can guess. And I was doing a lot of work at that through a school that is now gone out of business. And I made so many contacts at that bank that is where a lot of my students are coming from because of the networking I got through working with this school.
Yep. And
Yes,
yeah,
there's. Go ahead. Go
and I
ahead.
would say just you have so much visibility alone. When someone sees you teaching a class, people think they see you there and they think they see themselves being able to take the class, and it's just so easy for them to just say, "Hey, what's your name?" Like, I'd like
Yeah,
to take classes too. So people find you without even having to say anything because they just see you there teaching.
yes.
That's
Yeah, that used to
exactly.
be the case. That used to be the case.
Yeah, it used to be the
Yeah,
case, not so
now.
much now.
Yeah.
But
Yeah,
Kay,
no.
you brought up exactly like that's what I was going to say is that also when you're in these companies, just you're going down the elevator and you're answering your messages that you couldn't answer while you were in class. People hear English, they'll ask you, "Oh, are you an English teacher?" Blah blah blah, in that work. Although, guys, a little message on ethics. I don't like, and you shouldn't. I don't think folks should
You
do that.
don't
But if you
poach
have,
from your employer.
yes, don't take
Yeah.
from your employer if that's bad business. But if somebody else in the company happens to see you and they're like, "Oh, do you teach privately?" Blah blah blah. Yes, I have taken classes from people like that, but never taken from, you know.
Yeah. Well, usually, um, there's multiple companies working in the same, sorry, there's multiple agencies and schools working in the same company. And like
Hmm.
who you've been assigned to teach, okay, that's your company. But if their friend who sees you in the elevator, you know,
Exactly.
wants to know, that's to me, that's fair game because, they don't have a relationship with your company.
Exactly.
Exactly.
And you
Exactly.
didn't,
Yeah.
and you're not marketing to them. You're not spending the time you're supposed to be spending teaching, marketing yourself. You're just doing your job and someone wants to ask you a question.
But know your company, because every company, some English schools are a bit bitchier about that, and some aren't. The one I work
Okay.
for is really cool about that, which is why I've been with them for as long as I have, even though 90% of my salary comes from private teaching. And here, Ralphie's giving us all the different companies he's worked for: CBRD, Akletter, Metal, Odessa, great networking, the law school, and the private sector. But DJ Williams just came in. Thanks for dropping in, DJ Williams. He says private teaching is the best, which is what we're about to into. 100 to 150 an hour. Easy, upscale students, and I specialize in conversation. No Portuguese speaking in class. So he's on Pete's level there. And yeah, obviously, private teaching is the best way to go. But I do think it's important to always have more than one egg in the basket. But let's get to private teaching, guys. So
Yeah.
hourly rates for private classes can run as low as 60 reais, but upwards to 120 reais or more. Usually, well, this was before the pandemic, but usually private teachers would go to a client's house or their company. Sometimes the clients would come to your own house. And it's probably the easiest way to have more freedom, as a teacher. But there are some pitfalls. So that's what I really want to talk about with you guys
Hmm.
is the pitfalls. One, stuff you should be aware of. It's not a year-round gig. And Pete and I talked a
Yes.
little bit about this because of Carnival. Because most schools have classes up until a week before Christmas and start up in January. So if you're working for a business school, you will have that guarantee that January classes will probably pick up. Um, but when it's private, those guys are ready to go on vacation second week of December. They may come back in January, maybe not. and then they're off again for carnival. What are your guys' experience dealing with that and saving up nuts like a squirrel before?
Yeah.
Well, as for me, I'm a part of Carnival, so I'm kind of it works for me. It works for me. Um, but I am also new to this, so I feel like I don't have I don't have too much experience in doing like the whole year round teaching because I've always done carnival. So I myself haven't made myself available around carnival time. Um, so yeah, that's what I have to say.
Okay, you already adjusted to it.
Hmm.
Um,
Yeah.
I know Pete and I, we probably just save up nuts like squirrels.
Yeah, I mean, for me, the first year was rough because I did not understand how the calendar works here, especially because
Yes.
South America is on a backwards academic calendar, kind of. So you don't really get when the breaks are if you come in here knowing nothing, which I did. So yeah, there were some lean times the first year, but I found that November is usually boom time. Like in
Mm-hmm.
November, you can make double the money that you do in most other months, and you just
Oh.
need to, yeah, you just need to hang on to that money and
Mm-hmm.
not blow it all on crack and prostitutes or whatever your thing is. Um, just just hang on to that money because that's like the extra month's salary. Like in Brazil, you're probably aware that most corporate employees they get that 13th month salary as kind of a bonus,
Mm.
and that is November is your 13th month bonus. You need to like say, okay, I made double the money this year, but that's because I'm going to make no money for the next 2 months.
Yes. And by the way, the 13th salary, not a bonus. It's just all the money that they take out that they don't pay you throughout the year and they finally give it to you. So it's money that you could have had throughout the year and then it's given to you at the end of the year. It's all the tax money. I found that out because I finally get a 13th salary. I work for a school, and I was like Pete. I was like, oh, I get a bonus. Oh no, actually, I get less money all year, and then I get it all in one chunk at the end of the year. Um, but true, guys. One thing that you can do, and I've started doing this, is you can have a simple agreement to have a client always pay you at least 50% of all the classes for any given month, so you won't be left out in the cold or the sun. Um, but that brings us to another point is that as a private English teacher, guys, it's on you. Payment is on you. The
Hmm.
schools
Yeah.
will do all that stuff. So that can be a headache. Um, but eventually you're gonna, good clients connect you to other good clients that connect you to other good clients and good
Mm-hmm.
payers. So in the beginning, I was a bit like Pete. My first year here, I was like, wait, we're not going back to work. I spent all my money. And that was my first growing pain. And then my second growing pain is how do I get these people to just pay you on time? And
Mm.
I realized, okay, it's just the type of client you have, that's going to connect you to other good clients.
I
How do
know.
you guys deal with payments? What's your payment policy?
Well, the thing
Um,
is, you can't be too bitchy. Sorry, I will just say this quickly. You can't be too bitchy about it either, because if people feel like you're pestering them for their
Yes,
money, their fucking
I know.
feelings get hurt, and they'll
I
dump you.
know.
It's like, oh, he only cares about my money.
I know.
But okay, okay, continue.
um, I got some cheat codes for payment due to my connections here, namely friends and also my partner. And they're basically like, don't be afraid to be serious about money. Don't be afraid to charge up front. It's how it works. Like people
Yeah,
might pretend it's not how it works, but don't worry. Like, so they basically like told me. like gave me permission. They're like, nope, just be direct. And if they flake, they're not the right student, because
Yes.
Exactly.
whoever's going to
Yes.
Exactly.
pay knows they have to pay up front. They know serious people are going to expect this. And,
Yeah.
it proved to be true. So I started off pretty hard on people. I mean, it's not my personality to pester people, but I really couldn't, because and it seemed like every time I made an exception for someone, that was the person that screwed me over. When they're like,
Yes.
Hmm.
actually, can we just do it after the class? And I'd be like, oh, okay, why not? That's not unreasonable. And then it becomes, oh, okay, it's tomorrow. Then it becomes, oh, I'm sick. Then and basically they were right. You just have to be strict and say you have to pay to get your classes, and if you don't, I can't help you. Sorry.
No, this
Yeah.
is true. You got to be a bit of
And
rough around the edges when it comes to
And the
that.
thing is, too, those are the ones who are eventually going to quit. Like
That
they
too.
don't pay, and then they quit. So,
Hmm.
like, not only are you not getting paid for the classes you're doing, but the classes you expected to be doing aren't going to happen either. So, it was basically a giant waste of your fucking time.
Yes. Look
Exactly.
at this, guys. We got some folks ganging up on Brazilians here. DJ says my students have been airline pilots, doctors, lawyers, judges, top administrative managers for Valley. Charged by the month upfront. Any
Yeah.
cancellations, classes will be rescheduled, or depending on the cancellations. For me, 24 hours or less, the classes will not be rescheduled.
Yeah.
Same.
Uh, yeah, and he says get your money up front because students will always cancel. And then Anthony says we all know never give a Brazilian an inch. 2 miles will be taken.
Oh
This is
man.
Yes.
sad. This is sad but true, guys. Okay, sad
But
but true.
Yeah.
you know what?
I am
uh,
with DJ in that always get the month up front.
yep, same.
Definitely, definitely,
Same.
definitely. What were you gonna
And
say, Kay?
I was going to say, you know Brazilians told me this. I never walked into it distrustful. They were like, no. It was crazy how my friend's aunt broke it down for me. They're like, for
Sorry,
don't date your
DJ's
student.
comment.
Yeah, I never did that. But for
No.
example, like one of my friend's aunts, she was like showing me this guy's page, and she was like, you have to offer packages, and like what you can do is if you charge I couldn't believe she told me this, because she's also a student, but she was basically like, if you charge a lower price but you do a package, she's like, you end up getting the price you want because no one ever shows up to 100% of their classes. And I was just like,
That's good advice, actually.
yeah. But I still do monthly packages. I just do a month to month basis because I don't like to do like installments. I just do on a month by month basis. But that's when she told me that, I was like, wow. And she was also like, don't let people act like they don't have the money because the company's paying for it. You can offer to give them a receipt. Like, she was telling me, like, like don't let people play games, because most of the people who are interested in these classes, they know how much it costs. You're not overcharging, your price is right,
Yeah.
is market rate. Don't fall for it. And I'm so
Yeah.
thankful for that conversation.
Yeah. And Kay, you've probably had the interview with potential students that you've rejected, right?
Mm,
Because of the problems that come up during the interview. Like I've had these interviews with people who are like, okay, I want to learn English fast. That's my first trigger warning right there. It's like, I want to
mm,
learn English fast. Um, I don't want to use a book. I don't want to do homework.
oh,
And you tell them your rates, and they ask right away for a discount. And right then, it's like, this person is not worth the trouble. You're going through so much just talking
yep,
that the actual class is going to be problematic. You're going to be lucky to get 3 classes out of that before one of you decides to quit. and it will
Yeah.
probably be you. You'll probably just tell them
Yes,
like, yeah,
I've
Yeah.
sorry.
fired students before. I joke that
Oh
I fire
yes.
students.
Oh yes.
Um, Guys, let's move on because I we still need Kate for a little special thing at the end, so I don't want to keep her up too late. Okay, so
Okay.
we're gonna move right along real quick. You know, here just international schools. Those are the top paying. If you get a chance to
Yes,
get into the international schools, it's good salary, but it's 100% strict. Get those lesson plans in. I work for not an international school, but an English school inside of a Brazilian school. So I have a little bit of that. I have a little bit of my coordinator up my butt all the time, which I love her, by the way. It's just because I'm all over the place. Yeah, you know, where are the lesson plans? Are you following the schedule? Are you doing this? But you make good money. You make good money. It can be between 4 to 10,000 reais a month, but it's not for everybody. Okay, and you do have to have a degree and everything. You know,
you
all
have to
the
be
nine
legal.
yards for
That's
that.
the important thing. Yeah.
Yes, that's another thing. Okay, how to find work. Very quick, guys. What was your, you know, the easiest way for you to find work? Get those private students.
Go ahead, Gay.
Okay. I would say right now, Instagram and referrals, because yeah, after you teach for a while, your students, you know, recommend you, and other teachers recommend you when their schedule is full. So it's a bit of networking and also yeah, networking and social media. I think finding students, you know, you got to find your own kind of way of doing it because the traditional ways I was used to in like Canada didn't necessarily work.
Yeah.
So I think Instagram referrals, networking is very good.
I got you. I feel that.
Yeah, and I have to say, for me, lately, it's been networking strictly, and not conscious networking. It's not like I'm out there handing out business cards because,
Right.
first of all, there's no one to hand out business cards to because the streets are empty.
Hmm.
And then there is the fact that it's not something that I'm consciously doing. It's just that after having been here for a certain period of time, that I've accumulated like hundreds of past students who are referring me to other people to the point where some of these referrals I have to turn away because our schedules are not compatible. So I
Hmm.
think it's a matter of doing good work, but it takes time to put in, which is
Yes.
why I'm really impressed with UK because you've only been here 2.5 years and you already got that network. You know, for me, it took like 5, 6 years to build that network up.
Well, it's still it's still going, you know. I'm still putting a lot of work into it. But yeah, definitely having this being connected to some networks, some other expats, and also now Instagram. It's quite helpful.
I agree. Jerry
Yes.
Faria agrees with y'all, where he says word of mouth recommendations. Networking students will usually tell their friends if they like you. DJ says referrals leave business cards inside businesses, universities, on billboards. Now, I like that DJ mentioned this because I'm like you guys. Now it's like they fall out of the sky, you know, and it's really weird. Like, I just got a ton of students from England. I'm teaching a bunch of guys from England from a guy that I taught like 3 years
Cool.
ago for like a month before he went to England, but he just really liked me. And then he just told, told his friends about me, and I got a bunch of students from there. So it's definitely staying positive too, just kind of like, you know, if you build it they will come, you know, and students do end up showing up. But when I first got here, I didn't have that network, so I liked what DJ said. I think it's important when you first get here, make some business cards. If you eat at a little restaurant every day, ask if you can leave your business card. If you're Go to a cleaners or a bank manager, whatever you do, hand them a business card. That's the beginning stages of building that network. Of course, like I said, we all said before, if you work at one of those little business schools, you could start, building your network from there. So I had
Mm-hmm.
business cards. I haven't had to make them since. I almost made them again last year because of the whole pandemic, and I lost a whole lot of money in like a month. But then, I just got referrals. I would just ask other teachers, hey, do you know anybody who needs classes? Don't be afraid to like be honest with yourself. Like, I'm going through shit. Do you have any students that you can't take on? And you usually you build a network even among other teachers who can help each other. I know I always try to send Pete stuff when I have extra stuff. Um, and another thing too, I think Pete actually did this before, right? Pete, didn't you put stuff on at USP at one point at the University of São Paulo?
I
Or am
did,
I?
yes,
Yeah, yeah, yeah.
but
So you go
but that
ahead.
was during the dome apocalypse, so it didn't
Yeah,
actually
no, but I'm
do
just
anything.
saying, when you're starting out, stuff like that works. Putting stuff on at university billboards. I even use Craigslist, guys. I got a couple students off of
Really?
Craigslist.
Uh,
In
Brazilians
Craigslist
don't.
Brazil?
used Craigslist used to be awesome for getting jobs from the types of schools we were talking about, like the small,
Yes,
independently owned local schools. They
yes,
Okay.
always advertised on Craigslist. I got so many
Interesting.
exactly.
jobs off Craigslist.
Exactly, and although Brazilians don't really use Craigslist, I guess the algorithms, like if they type on Google English teacher in Vila Mariana, it can be very specific. You put in all the keywords, your name shows up. So I got at least two students when I was first in Brazil off of Craigslist because I would always ask, "Where did you find me?" And one last one before we move ahead that worked for me, worked wonders, is putting an ad in one of those neighborhood magazines. Like Butantan has like a Villa Butantan, whatever. And those little
Oh,
magazines show up to everybody's apartment. So it's
Yes,
like
they do.
2,000, 3,000, or more people are seeing your advertisement. And man, I paid back what I paid for that ad in 1 month. I mean, not just paid it back, I paid it back
nice.
plus some. So, like they say, spend a little money to make a little money. And anybody try teaching in China? I don't know. I don't want to talk about China right now, but that's an option. So, guys, to close,
I did for five
yeah, I mean,
years.
he means like those online. So,
Yeah, no.
let's close this conversation out with once you're working, some things that I think are important to consider is one, planning your day wisely. Now, I wrote this when we were pre-pandemic, so
Yeah,
I felt that,
Mm-hmm.
guys, I would always do this, and then you guys tell me what you did. My thing was this, because in the beginning I was teaching all day from like 8 a.m. to 8 p.m. I burnt out after a month. So what I decided was, hey, I'm going to teach two class. Choose a block, either the morning block, the afternoon block, or the evening block. So I can teach 2 to 3 classes in the morning, have the rest of the day free, maybe one class at night, or have all the morning free and teach 2 or 3 classes in the evening. But don't try to make it a full day because you're gonna burn out after a month or
you
two.
will. You
Or at
will.
the
Agree.
very least, have like if you do have like I would usually put one heavy day. Like I don't know, Wednesday is my heavy day where I start at 8 a.m. and go till 10. But the
Mm.
next day will be like one class. What were you guys' thoughts on this burnout?
So I've actually had this happen online as well,
Yeah.
unfortunately. And
Yes.
and yeah, I agree with your strategy, Phil. That works for me as well. I usually try to um have my classes within a time frame. I usually start around 9 and then go till about noon and then have one class in the afternoon and then one in the evening. So I have good breaks in between, like good 2 3 hour breaks. And then, I'm done by 7 or 8 o'clock. But yeah, there was a point where I was starting at 7:30 and ending at 10, and that was, ooh, that didn't go well.
I'm in that same boat right now. I'm trying to figure out how to work out my schedule because I'm teaching at least 6 classes per day. But what I
Damn.
managed is to make Wednesday my off day. Like I have just 2 classes and I have like 4 hours to just sleep and then
Day
do something in the
offy.
evening. Yeah. Um, in the weekend, of course, don't teach Sundays, guys. I've had a couple students ask
No.
me to teach them
Oh,
on
I don't
Sunday.
teach on
Yes,
weekends at all.
No. I do
yes,
evaluations on weekends sometimes, but usually
Mm,
it's a very narrow window, like 1 to 5. Like you can
yeah.
get me in there, but that's about it.
It's
okay.
rough, guys. It's rough. But it's a temptation because of the money. Now, some
Yeah.
things that you can do to mitigate that is getting groups. So you're making more money working less. So when I was out on the street, I tried to get as many group classes as possible because obviously you're
Hmm.
going to make more people, more money. Um, if you're just chasing after that magical 10K per month, just charging 100 per class, yeah, you may burn out. You may burn out.
Yeah.
So you have to be careful with that, and definitely dangerous now with the uh, pandemic because you do feel like, hey, I can teach 3 classes in a row, and you can, but it can get to be a lot very quickly.
Hmm.
Um, we already talked about planning your year wisely. Just guys, remember December to February. There's a big break. Payment. You got to be strict with the payments.
And
Don't.
July.
In
Don't
July with the
underestimate
kids,
July.
yes. I've become the
Everyone
kid
fucks off
teacher
on vacation
with their
because they're
kids.
all the kids are on the school break.
Yes, and that's another thing. Like all of a sudden, I got all these kids fall out of the sky. I'm teaching
Yeah.
4 or 5 kids right now. I don't know how or why, but yes, I'm already expecting July. Okay, they're all gonna go on vacation, so
So
I'm
you
just
only
saving.
have like 8 working months here, really.
Hmm. Also, guys, get constant feedback. As we all know, Pete and Kay, Brazilians aren't the most front people. They'll tell you, it's great, it's wonderful, it's great, it's
Yeah.
wonderful.
And then they'll
And then they
fire you the
disappear.
next day.
Yeah, they'll fire you the
Yeah.
next day.
Yeah. Yeah.
Specific feedback. Specific feedback. But teaching can be rewarding. It is rewarding. And I think and you can make, a decent amount of money and meet a lot of great people. Like how are you feeling, Kay, with the teaching? Like, what's the thing other than maybe the cash, which is nice? Or I don't mind being a capitalist bastard. I love the money, but aside from that, like, what gives you the most pleasure from teaching English?
Helping students achieve their dreams, helping students achieve their goals. I think also getting to know the students and their stories. You over the years, you hear some really, touching stories and all the things people had to go through to get to where they are and all they'd like to do going forward. So this part I enjoy a lot.
That's probably what I enjoy the most too, and just getting to know different people. I think.
Yeah.
But guess what? Uh, guess what is gonna happen right now? Let me see if I can cue this up correctly because I'm terrible at cueing things.
Okay.
Okay, listen to this. That music right there should make your bones shiver. Okay, because everybody that comes on the Brazil Expat Journal has to take the Expat Challenge. Okay,
Oh. Oh.
so so I hope you're prepared.
Okay.
As we, Pete and I have explained before, if you fail the expat challenge, deportation may be in order. So
Oh no.
be prepared. Okay, be smart. And we're just going to run down a few questions about Brazil and see how well you do. All right. So the first, and this is kind of lightning round. So first thing that comes to mind, let us know. What is the best thing about Brazil?
Weather.
The weather. We can agree with that. And what about
Mhm.
the worst thing about Brazil?
Um, Rain.
That's also weather.
I guess that's weather. Yeah. Oh my gosh.
Yeah,
It's a lot of pressure. Okay, no, the worst thing, racism, I guess.
well,
There you
yes,
go.
there's a lot of that here. Although, Kay, you just described Brazil. Like sometimes one thing is both the best and the worst thing about this country.
Hmm. Yeah.
So I go with your first answer. The weather's the best thing, and the weather's the worst thing. What's your favorite food in Brazil?
Churrasco.
Nice answer.
Churrasco. Anthony Magru is playing along here. He says acarajé is the best thing about Brazil. He's in Bahia.
I
What's
love
your?
acarajé.
It's
I do
nice,
too.
man.
Phil's never had it. Phil's
Yeah,
never
I've
had
What?
it.
never had it. Yeah, it's
Phil.
got shrimp in it. It's got
Phil.
shrimp in it. I don't eat too much shrimp.
You can
What's
get
your?
like a vegan one. You can get like a jackfruit
Oh, that's
acarajé.
even worse. Come on, if I try an acarajé, I at least want to try an official one. Don't you hit me with that
Oh.
vegan stuff. Nothing against our vegan friends out there. We love you. Um, Least favorite thing about Brazil?
Um. Um. Some of the like the cheeses, I'm not fond of. Uh,
Yes.
I think some of the like I don't know some of the communication styles, uh, like I don't know when people ask questions they know the answer to.
Yes, communications. Pete and I, we got to do a show, and we probably will, on just like cultural differences in Brazil and how to
Yeah,
deal with that. But yes, the
but I,
cheese here is pretty bad.
yeah,
It,
like I don't like requeijão. I don't like any of
Oh,
that stuff. Yeah, I don't like. I think also like
Katapuri.
the burger, yeah, catupiry. I don't like the burgers. Cheese tudo is not it for me.
Not it at all. Now, Eniola asked here, is there racism in Brazil like in the USA? Eniola, we're going to do a whole show on that. And we might actually invite Kay back to talk a little bit about that. It,
Okay.
yes, there's, it's another
It's
topic.
another level. It's another
Yes,
level
yes,
too.
another level.
Yeah.
All right, moving right along. Question number 5. What's your favorite drink? It can be alcoholic or non-alcoholic.
Caipirinha or and all the juices. Caipirinha and all the juices.
The juices are
They have
great.
the
Oh my
best
goodness.
drinks here. Oh my gosh.
Yes,
Yeah.
yes. I'm a
Best
Caipirinha
big
and
hangover cure.
passion fruit caipirinha. Oh my gosh. It's too good.
delicious, delicious. And question number 6. What is the best place you have visited in Brazil?
Mm. Um, I like. Why am I drawing a blank? I like Rio de Janeiro. I know people feel differently, but I really like Rio de Janeiro. I like the countryside of São Paulo. I like there's so many places I like. I went to Iporanga. It was so nice. It's like near the border of São Paulo and Paraná, and it was really beautiful. There's so many
Ipuranga.
places. Yeah,
How do you
so
spell
good.
that?
Iporanga.
Ipuranga.
Yes,
All
I like
right.
Yeah,
the park. Like the
There you
park as
yeah,
go.
well,
e-
James.
exactly. They have that park there. They have caves. Petar. It's a park called Petar. Búzios is really nice.
Yeah, but let's
Trin-
stick with one place. I like Ipuranga. Look at
okay.
that.
Yeah.
Is this
Oh,
it?
wow. Beautiful.
Yep. They
Yeah.
have, I think they have, you see that cave there? They have like caves you can
Ooh,
go into. Um,
nice. Very
that was a
beautiful.
great trip.
And
I
this
felt
Iporanga is near Guarujá.
Guarujá. No, it's like a good 4 or 5 hours away from São Paulo. It's far.
Oh, got you. I got you. Yeah, look at that. It's got a population of 4,000 people. Nice. Okay, cool, cool, cool. I like finding out about new places. Moving right along. Seven, most overrated thing about Brazil.
Oh, that's hard to say. I think a lot of things really are not overrated.
Mm-hmm.
I think a lot of things are underrated.
Mm.
But most overrated? Oh gosh. Um, I honestly don't know what would be the most overrated thing. Let me think, because churrasco is not overrated.
No, it is not. It is not.
Caipirinhas are not overrated.
No, no,
And Yola said that crime may be the most overrated. Maybe.
no, no. I disagree. Crime is represented exactly as it should be.
I had a friend on here on the Expat Journal who said São Paulo, and I almost kicked him off my show. I'm kidding. I'm kidding.
Wow. Actually, you know what? You know what? I have my answer. Honestly, I would say the beaches. I think that
Ah,
I have
yes.
like Brazil's beautiful, but I think like the waterfalls and stuff like that are more beautiful. I think there's better beaches in other regions of the world. So
Yeah.
I would
Great
say the
answer. Great answer. I like that answer. And it's funny, guys, because for this question, I always used to say best overrated place or thing. And just because it sounded too wordy, I took out place just for tonight, and you gave us a place. So I'm going to have to put that back in there. Maybe help you
okay.
guys think of an answer. All right, we're
Oh,
almost done here.
well, there
Almost done.
actually are a lot of overrated places. So
Yes,
yeah,
I'm going to add that back in. I'm going
there's
to
a
add
lot of
that back in.
overrated places. Yeah.
Like Rio. Okay, number eight. Best place to visit in Sao Paulo.
In the city or in the state.
In the city, not the state. In the city of Sao Paulo.
Oh my gosh. To visit. There's so many good places. Vila Madalena.
Vila Madalena, again, a place that I'm not a big fan of, but why do you like Vila Madalena?
Because it's, I don't know, it's very charming to me. It feels like the sun is always shining. There is I love the graffiti alley, Batman's alley.
Oh, Batman's Alley is
Batman
cool.
Alley is amazing.
Yeah,
That's pretty
and they're
cool.
always changing the graffiti. I think that's a great place to go. Um, yeah, or maybe like I don't know, going for drinks on Augusta or something. I don't know.
No, but I like that. Villa Madalena works for me. I like that. Anthony McGrew, he said that sex is overrated and it's too short and too quick. He
Well,
had an answer.
that says a lot
All
about
right,
him.
number
But
nine. Question number nine.
Oh, that's funny.
All right, question number nine. So far, I haven't picked up the phone to call the Canadian consulate. You're doing well. What is
Wow.
your favorite band or musician? Pick one. Favorite band and or musician. Brazilian, obviously. Yes.
Brazilian, yes.
Yes.
Oh, there's so many. Oh my gosh. Mm, mm, it's really hard. I love Brazilian music. There's so many good artists. Um, let's say Martinho da Vila because he wrote a lot of
Aha.
great samba enredos and he wrote a lot of great songs for other singers. So I'm gonna say that, but there's just too many.
I agree, but you picked a great one. I'll put links to Marcinho da Vila at the bottom there, like I did with Ron. He picked Legion Lebrun, and I put a little link to their greatest hits. And Marcinho's great. Yes, a lot of. I'm not a big fan of samba, but he makes some good sambas, man. Very thoughtful ones. And finally, last
Yeah.
question. One word of advice for anyone thinking of coming to Brazil? Just general word of advice, not related to English
Mayara
speaking
and
or anything.
Maraiza, someone said.
Ah! Mayara Maraiza, that's like a country duel.
Yeah, I went to a concert of not Mayara and Maraiza, but the other two girls. What's the other two girls?
Oh, you got me. I have no
I can
clue.
see them. I can see them. And one, why can't I remember? No, not Nayara. Uh, anyway,
What's the
I'll
ones
remember.
that have that video? Is it the one that has that video where they're in like in this old western town?
They have so many. They have so many hits. These girls.
Oh yes, I think I know what you're talking about because Mariah and this is not the
They
girls I
have a
was thinking about.
similar name.
Yes, I'm thinking of
Um.
me. Well, we'll think about it later. We'll think about
Okay.
it later.
Okay. Okay.
Because the music's come to an end, so that means
Simone Simaria. Simone
Simone
Simaria.
Simara. I'm gonna
That was
send
it.
this. I'm gonna send this video to Pete later, and he's gonna have a fun time watching it. Um, yeah, no, the music's crap, but these girls are something else to look at. They're very gorgeous,
Yeah,
and they're all in these skimpy clothes in this old west type set, and it's nice to look at.
nice,
You will
Really?
nice.
enjoy it. You will enjoy it. But anyway, last question, because what word of advice would you give to somebody coming to Brazil?
It's not easy. If you're
It's
looking for
not
something
easy.
easy, go somewhere else. It's not going to be easy.
Yes.
It's not going to be easy at
Go
all.
to China,
And
motherfuckers.
Is it easier there?
Yeah, a
Or you
lot
just,
easier.
okay.
Brazil is not for amateurs, as the great Antonio Carlos Jobim has famously said, or had
Oh,
famously
really?
said, because he's dead. He's
Oh,
dead. Yes, that's one of his
okay.
famous quotes. Another one of his famous quotes is because he spent a lot of time in the U.S. And at one point, he was the second biggest recording artist behind the Beatles. Like more people were recording his music than just behind the Beatles. So Jobim definitely had a big impact. But another great line of his is that America's good, but it's bad. Brazil is bad, but it's good. Um,
Yeah, exactly. That's perfect.
Oh,
so
yeah, that makes a lot of
Indiola
sense.
here. Indiola, he says, what is the name of the host of this live broadcast? I'm Phil, and I'm with my co-host Pete, and we're talking to Kate tonight. And we're on, guys, every other Monday, okay? Every other Monday. So don't look for us next week. If you made it here to the end, one, thank you.
Yes,
But
thank you so much.
click on that subscribe button, click on that little bell to get notifications, and click on that like button so our video shows up. And of course, Kay, give us all the information. How do we get a hold of you? Where are you actually? Oh wait, there you go. Let's get
I'm
Kay up there.
here. Yes, if you'd like to follow me, you can find me on Instagram, Facebook, and TikTok. I have the same handle for all of them. It is Diaspora English Learning. DIASPORAENGLISH Learning. LEARNING. Diaspora English Learning. You can find me on Instagram, TikTok, and Facebook with those handles. You can also email me, Kayla at diasporaenglish.ca, if you're interested in classes or you just want to meet. The best way to get a hold of me is whatever the best way is for you, because I check all of those.
Cool. And you can see her Instagram there on the screen. And please, Kay, after we're finished, send me all that contact info because I do the after show stuff, which is tagging the video and putting all the links in there and all that fun stuff. That's,
Okay.
it's headache inducing but important. And then I'll put all the ways, guys, that you can get a hold of her in the comment section of the video. So watch out for that. But you can see there, I pronounce it diaspora. How did you pronounce it? Diaspora? Does
I
it?
well, there's different ways. Like I say diaspora, it can be diaspora,
Okay.
diaspora,
But in either
diaspora,
case, you'll
diaspora.
get there and you'll enjoy her videos. She's wonderful. And thank you for coming on. We kept you on for a while. Sorry, but you were just such a good guest. We're having a lot of fun with you.
And very
Well,
sporting about it.
well, thank you for having me. It was a pleasure chatting with you both, and I hope this is, the first of many conversations because the stories in Brazil are endless.
Yes, yes. The
That
Naked
is true.
City has a million stories, and this is one of them.
Hmm.
And this is true, guys. So, thanks to everybody. Check us out. Like I said, in 2 weeks we'll be back, and you'll find out what we're going to talk about in 2 weeks because I haven't planned that far ahead. So here's a little
Yeah.
outro music. Hang out, Kate. Don't leave.
Okay.
Adios, everybody.
Bye bye.